Okay, sorry about that. I always have to discover whether or not I've turned up the sound when I go ahead and push go on live. So wanted to make sure that you guys can hear me. Hey, it is Wednesday. Welcome to Facebook Live Q&A Wednesday, where I talk about questions that clients have had or that you guys have asked, and help hopefully teach you some real information, something different than a lot of you hear on social media, or a lot of what the media tells us and what things that I heard growing up, and even as an adult, that absolutely make no sense when it comes to science. So, trying to educate everyone so that they know how their bodies really work, and how to get healthy in a realistic, sustainable way. So my name is Melissa Fillmore of Fillmore Fitness. I've been around for a little while here at this point. I have about 7 years worth of experience in training. And for those of you who have no idea who I am, the reason why I chose to become a trainer was because about 8-9 years ago, I actually was obese. It's really hard to tell at this point because I've actually lived a healthy lifestyle for almost 7 years now. Or for about 7 years now. And so the benefit is that when I work with my clients, I know where we're coming from. I know the struggles that we have, the obstacles that come our way when we're trying to live a healthy lifestyle. I'm just like everyone else. I'm very, very human. And I don't know everything, but I do a lot of research and a lot of studying, especially when my clients come up with some interesting questions. Like, of course, today's question is, why do I struggle with food? So totally understand that one. I've had a struggle my entire life. I am 42 years old, and for most of my adult life, I was obese, so I totally get it. I want to talk a little bit about, why we struggle with food. Some people have more trouble than others. I will let you know right from the get-go that, for some people, you might be a little more susceptible to it. It comes in our DNA, but there's ways around it. So just keep that in mind. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Hi, V. Super excited to be here today. I will warn you that at just over 3 weeks out from competition, I'm a little ding-a-lingy. So I keep warning all my clients that, sometimes I do some really silly stuff. A little bit of brain fog there for anybody who's competed before. You kind of know what I'm talking about. But you know what? The fact that I can do my job and that I still love what I do, and I'm very passionate about this, so I keep up with it. We'll hopefully be able to do Q&A Wednesday right up until competition. I actually compete on a Thursday, which is really strange, but it is a national event, which is a little different than a local or an amateur show. I am doing Masters Nationals in Pittsburgh, July 20th. I'm actually doing 2 classes, pretty excited about that. 35 and over and 40 and over, which I think is really funny when people come back and go, why are you doing 40 and over? You're not 40. Yes, I am. So pretty excited about that. It's getting close. Yes, I'm nervous. I'm always nervous. I've been competing for about 5, almost 6 years. It's just been an interesting process. And this is my last season. It takes a lot of time and energy away from my family and away from my clients, and it's kind of time to change up what I'm doing. So I've got some other things that are on the back burner, and I'm really excited about that. So let's jump into our questions today. Thanks, Mahek. I appreciate that. Mahek's cheering me on. I do appreciate that. So let's talk about why we struggle with food. I totally get it. Most of us do have some sort of an unhealthy relationship with food, whether, depending on multiple factors. But, I used to eat when I was bored or when I was stressed. So, for a lot of us, thanks you guys. I've got Delma and Mahek just giving me some praises, so I appreciate you guys. Most of us, have had some sort of unhealthy relationship with food in the past. It just really depends on a couple of things, and the big one is habits and stuff that we've actually accumulated as we grow up. Maybe you were. I have to say it's kind of, sometimes it's a learned situation. I know that in my family, this is something that would happen, when we get stressed out. We use food as comfort. Or a stress release. And up until a couple of years ago, I still did that as an adult. And we're going to talk about tips and ways around this at the end of this, but I get it. I've been known, and I tell people, I've been known to eat my feelings. I get really stressed out, and, I want to stick my head in a bag of M&Ms. So that's a real thing. Part of it, like I said, is something that I've learned growing up, where when you get stressed or when you need some comfort, we look to food as the tool that we use. So that can be part of it. some of us also grew up in a generation where our parents really were into make sure you clean your plate. You know, there's starving children in other countries. I don't know if any of you have heard that before, but that's definitely a generational thing. I remember talking about that, and at the time there were starving children in Ethiopia. You need to clean your plate. You know, of course, now my answer is, well, let's give them some of the food that I'm not going to eat. But it does. Things that we have learned to do, things that our parents do, or just that we were exposed to as growing up, we're going to have those issues, and we're going to have those habits created. So we have to find ways around that. Some people struggle with food because it's a form of control. You know, I have friends that have been in situations where they might be anorexic or bulimic, or overeat. Those, I know, they're all unhealthy relationships with food. They're all an answer to something where maybe they've felt like they've lost control, and that's the one thing that they have control over. I hear many times, many stories about how, you know, kids in a situation like divorce, or just really, you know, or more intense situations where they took to food as comfort, and it's not just comfort, you know, it can become an addiction or a drug, because the dopamine effect that, you know, food can give us can actually mimic those of taking an actual drug like cocaine. So keep in mind that this part of this can become an actual addicting experience. There is absolutely such a thing as food addiction. Again, sometimes you can kind of tell if addiction runs in your family. Food might just be another form of addiction. The downside is that you can't just quit food cold turkey like you can other addictions. You have to work your way around it, because we need food as fuel. So keep in mind, I'm very aware and understanding of those situations, and you may need to seek professional help if that is something that is a problem for you. There's a lot more information on that. I'm not going to delve into that today. It is not my expertise, but I am aware of that. So keep that in mind. But, you know, food can be, for a lot of us have been through that binge guilt cycle. So again, a lot of us do have an unhealthy relationship somewhere with food. Now, not that we shouldn't have an emotional attachment sometimes to food. You know, food can be tradition with family. Food can be an experience. But as long as we can control that, that's part of the issue, is we need to learn how to control that. So that is one way that we might have a struggle with food. Another issue, though, is a lot of people, as they start to want to get healthier, they may restrict their calories too far. And that can be a really big issue, only because your body was designed to survive. And so if you don't feed your body enough calories, your body does not know the difference between a diet. You can't just say, hey, body, I'm going on a diet. It doesn't work that way. And starvation, it just assumes, hey, she's not going to feed me, so I'm just going to hold on to everything that I do get. It technically crashes your metabolism. So not getting enough calories, you will crave food. That is your body's way of going, I have to eat to survive. I need to do something about it. So willpower may not be the only issue that you have. It may have nothing to do with it. If you're not eating enough calories, it very well could be that you're restricting yourself too far. And also, same thing with skipping meals. I would say probably one of the biggest issues I have, or one of the most common situations a client might have, is that they don't eat breakfast. Right? Then they get to work, and by 10 or so they might, or maybe they have coffee in the morning, and by 10 or so they're hungry, so they might eat something that sounds healthy, like, oh, I don't know, a bagel, which is not healthy. And then by 3 or 4 in the afternoon, they're like, okay, maybe I'll eat a snack. By the time you get home at 5 or 6 at night, you've literally had no food in your body. Of course you're going to crave food. And most people think, okay, well, I haven't eaten anything all day, so I can eat whatever I want. The problem is you've crashed your metabolism. Now you're putting a bunch of garbage in on top of that. Of course you're going to gain fat from doing that on a regular basis. So, you know, that can be a problem. It might be something you need to think about and try to change. So John says he has had a salmon fillet today. I don't understand the grizzly bear friendly thing, but cool. Salmon's awesome. The other thing that can be a problem when it comes to struggling with food is that processed food is designed to be addicted to. It's a combination of sugar, fats, and salts. It it hits that spot. Like I said, it hits the same receptors that cocaine and other drugs can hit, and releases dopamine. So of course your body likes that feeling, and you crave those foods over and over again. So the more that you tend to eat processed food, the more issues you're going to have. And I'm going to tell you that coming off of sugar myself, it creates physical withdrawals. So it's a really tough one. We're not going to delve too much into that today, but just know that that can be a huge issue. And what's crazy is, I remember thinking back as I really was learning a lot about more healthier eating, that I thought that I ate really healthy. At the time I was making better choices. But 6 years later, I happen to know that a lot of those choices were not exactly healthy. If you cannot kill it or grow it, you probably should not be eating it. So that's just something to think about. Whole food is the best option. It has the most nutrients. Your body has to work harder to break it down. Processed food is already broken down. Your body's going to absorb it quicker and learn to store it a lot faster. So, there you go. Okay, so I do have some tips. For this. I found a really great article online. I do lots and lots of research, just because A, I want to know, and B, everybody is so different. All my clients are different. I don't cookie cutter anything that I do, and I do a lot of research in order to make sure that I'm giving them the best of their coach that they possibly can receive. So I found a really great website. It is called toomuchonherplate.com. And this is a doctor, PhD doctor, named Melissa McCreary. And she has some great tips in order to overcome this struggle with food. So, and then I've got one more in there to throw in that's my own. She says, first of all, you have to break the cycle. Most of us tend to habitually overeat or eat things that aren't healthy for us with, that struggle, that binge cycle. So we have to figure out what we need to do. What can I do to break that cycle, or to what can I do instead of eating to make myself feel better? So she gave like 9 tips, which I thought were really great. The first one is, because I know, like I said, I'm a stress eater. So these are some of the things that when you feel like, again, eating your feelings are great ideas. So number 1, if you find that you are worried or stressed or really dealing with a lot in your life, or overwhelmed, list your worries and your to-do list on paper, right? Sometimes getting it out of your head and onto paper is really helpful, just because, I do that at night. If you've ever thought, looked up reasons or ways to sleep a little bit better, or if you struggle to sleep because you consistently have things running through your head, one of the suggestions is to write down your to-do list on paper. And I do that every night. Let me tell you, I sleep like a baby for that reason. Because I have so much going on in my life. If I were to continue to think about it, I wouldn't sleep either. And that's already something I struggle with. So I love that idea. If you're really stressed out, write it down. Sometimes journaling it or putting it on paper makes a whole difference. You can think about it in a different way. The second one was do something physical. And I love this one because, again, I used to eat my feelings. As soon as I was be stressed out, I'd be looking for chocolate, to be honest. And now what I do is I do something physical. I go get some cardio done. I go throw weights around. Not really, but that makes me feel better. Just going for a walk even can help you feel better. So it should be appropriate to what your current skill level is or what your current activity level is, but definitely makes you feel better. At least you've taken a better step towards your health by involving a physical activity. The next one was, this is a good one. Pay attention to transitions during your day. Sometimes we get on autopilot and we start to kind of do things without thinking about it. You might always stop on the way to home from work at McDonald's and get something to eat because by then, of course, you're starving. Or maybe you keep something in your desk drawer, so as you're getting ready to leave work every day, you're digging into the chocolate-covered almonds or something to that effect. So pay attention to your transitions, and if you're doing things mindlessly, that is a big part of it. Take a 30-second break before you eat a snack. Are you going to eat something that's healthy? Are you going to eat something that's not healthy? Here's a funny idea. My son at night, sometimes after dinner, will come up and say, well, I'm hungry, right? And I'm like, great. If you're really physically hungry, go eat vegetables, go have an apple, go eat something else. If he's not hungry enough to eat that, he's not really hungry. He's actually hunting for junk, okay? So are you hungry, or are you just hunting for, a reason to eat something that sounds good, like a Twinkie, or something that even seems healthy, like maybe a granola bar or a protein bar? Guys, those are processed foods. To me, a protein bar is I can't even think of the word. Welcome to competition prep. It is backup. It's a backup plan. it's plan C. It is not plan A for me, because technically a protein bar is processed food. So it's something great. I would rather you eat than not eat, but it shouldn't always be your first choice. So take a 30-second time out. What are you gonna eat for the snack and why? Are you really physically hungry, or are you, eating for comfort? The next one is get enough sleep. Yes, I know I struggle with that one. If you don't get enough sleep, your body tries to find fuel in some way. And so sometimes if you're not getting the right amount of sleep, you'll have cravings. Your body will want food, because that is another form of fuel. So if you're not getting rest, it will try to kind of counterbalance that by wanting to eat more food. So make sure that you're getting enough sleep. Another great one, identify the times of day or the situations where you tend to overeat. Is there a certain time? For a lot of people, it's evening. After dinner, they're sitting down to watch TV and unwind, and all of a sudden you want potato chips or ice cream, and it becomes a real struggle, and it's a hard habit to break, especially in the evening. Now, not that you shouldn't eat before bed, because I fully believe that you should eat before bed. It's what you eat that becomes the problem. So if you're craving those junk foods, or those, the sweet, salty, and fat, that can be a problem, right? So pay attention. You might have to journal what's happening when you start to have those cravings. Is it a certain time of day? So keep that in mind. That way you can actually find a way to overcome that, or find another way to solve the situation. Next is put more fun and more play in your day. Yes, I'm guilty of not doing this. I have big goals, and sometimes I forget that sometimes I need to back up and take some time for myself. And I'm getting better at it. For those of you, I did post something yesterday about coming with me to a private stretching class. And no, that was not meant to be anything weird. I'm actually working with a yoga instructor to do more of like a hot yoga stretching situation. And that's, again, preparing me for my competition. And I'm doing it tomorrow, 12:30, if anybody's interested. For the more that is there, the more it cuts down on our price. So it's actually pretty good. I did it yesterday. It was pretty awesome. So put more play, more fun things in your day. I have to actually plan it. It sounds silly, but I do. I struggle to relax, so I have to actually plan for things like that. Next, choose a time to end your day. If you find yourself staying awake later and later at night, you're going to find that you want more and more food, because staying awake requires more fuel. So pick a time of day and work on transitioning into, bedtime at that time. That will help. I've been known at this point, when I'm hungry, to say to my family, dude, I'm going to bed, because otherwise I need more food and I'm done. Like I've eaten all my food for the day. So that's a good idea. Another one is designate unplugged time. That's so difficult. We all live on our phones. We all live on media. We all are constantly Facebooking and Instagramming and all that crazy stuff. Sometimes we need to take that time, put our phones away, and just relax. Again, I'm working on that one. That is important. I'm working on taking a vacation, so that's in my future. But that's something that works as well. Now, my suggestion on top of all these great ideas is to not multitask. Do not watch TV and eat, or I know once in a while you might be playing games with the family and having some snacks, and that's great as well, but I recommend that you don't mindlessly eat. If you are doing multiple things at the same time while you're eating, you're not aware of how much is going into your body, you're going to overeat. So, you're better off to just sit down, take the time, eat your meals, and then go on to do the next thing. So just some great ideas. Now, I am a huge reader. I love to read. I love to do research. And I have a couple of great books. So if you like to read as well, these are great books. For those of you that might be dealing with some emotional eating, I have a great book. It is called Fulfilled by Renee Stevens and Samantha Rose. A lot of these I find at the library, the local library. I order them, I read them, and then if I really, really like them, I will purchase them either on half.com or on Amazon, so that I have them on hand. So if I want to refer back to it, I have that. But it's a six-week weight loss plan for changing your relationship with food and your life from the inside out. Okay, so that's number one. That's a great book. The second one, totally appropriate. All these books are totally appropriate. It's called Shrink Yourself. Think of that in multiple ways, right? Break Free from Emotional Eating Forever. And it's called A Therapist's Guide to Losing Weight. Now, y'all know how I feel about losing weight. I'm more interested in losing fat or burning fat than I am about losing weight, but we're just reading this. That's by Roger Gould, MD. Okay, so that's a great book as well. Yes, I know this is backwards on Facebook Live. Okay, the last one that's a really great book is called Secrets from the Eating Lab. The Science of Weight Loss, The Myth of Willpower, and Why You Should Never Diet Again. And that's by Tracy Mann, also PhD. So some really great books. They give you some great tools in there, just a little more information than we have time to talk about today. But you're welcome to check out the local library, see if they have them. If not, honestly, you can probably find them for pretty cheap somewhere on the internet because everything is available these days, right? So hopefully I've helped you. Just know that if you do struggle with food, you're not alone. Most of us have, like I said, some sort of unhealthy relationship with food that we have to overcome, and it might take some time. So I guess my biggest tip overall would be, please be patient with yourself. Solving some of these issues is not an overnight type of a gig. You're not going to one day snap your fingers, wake up, and be okay with it. It takes time. It's taking me, a long time to not crave food. And I'm not talking physically. That happens pretty fast once you stop eating junk. But mentally, a lot of times, it takes a long time to be okay with, hey, I have found other ways to solve my solutions versus eating my feelings, right? Every once in a while I get it, but honestly, anymore, I have such other options. I've really worked on coming up with other options for that, and that works great. So it can happen. It can happen for all of you. You just have to take those steps. So had a great turnout tonight. I'm super excited that you all jumped in. I will post this so that if you know somebody who has issues, they might want to listen to this as well. Please also love the feedback, love other questions. We have a couple more weeks until competition. I love to hear from you. So you can either leave a comment below, ask your questions, or you can also email me at melissa@fillmorefitness.com. I love to hear from you. So have an incredible week, and we'll talk to you next week.